I want to ask you guys this question. Whose voice is that you hear inside your head? This is a question my therapist asked me. It's like, duh, sounds just like me. It's me, it's Chris, I know it's Chris. And then through a little bit of a little therapy, I'm like, oh my God, okay, who's that stranger in my house? So I want to share this quote with you from the Dalai Lama. Whatever brings disaster or harm should be called an enemy. So the ultimate enemy is actually within ourselves. And I'm browsing through a used bookstore and I see this title, and the title's screaming out to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, conquer your critical inner voice. Conquer your critical inner voice. I think a lot of people I know need this book. I need to read it. And so I learned some things about the way our brains work. It's that most of us, as a very young person, develop certain self-defense mechanisms to cope. That we internalize the angry parent. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's both. But it's almost always, this is very common with the kids that the psychiatrist works with, Dr. Firestone, that we feel rejection, neglect, or hostility, and we start to internalize this dialogue, and we develop a system to survive. The armor protects us. It gets us through childhood. But what happens is the armor becomes really heavy into our adulthood. Imagine literally right now, if you had to carry around an 80-pound suit of armor everywhere you went, to the bathroom, to the stage, it would be really difficult to live your life. And there's something else that we learn too. When we discover death somewhere between 3 and 7, that we now learn never to fully invest in our lives. Like, why should we? Then we don't attach to other people. And so it creates negative moods. We self-sabotage. And you know what we do when we get angry at other people. It's usually because we're angry inside about ourselves. So here's what I want you to do. Take out that imaginary piece of paper you don't have. Divide it into 3 even columns, okay? And we're gonna do a little exercise together. You're gonna wanna do this. I've shared it with people over the phone and they're almost in tears. Here's how we do it, okay? You have this critical voice, the one that attacks you. I want you to write down as many things as you can in the first person. I want you to write them down as I statements. You want to maybe put on some music, have a glass of your adult beverage, you know, and just sit there and write for 15 minutes. You want to time this because you want to get past the surface answers. And you want to write as much as you can without judgment. I this. What are all those voices? I'm not good enough. I'll never do it right. I'm lazy. I'm whatever it is, you write that down. And then in the second column, you're going to transfer this over and you're going to write this in the third person as you statements. So if you say, I'm not good at this, you're going to now say, you are not good at this. And after you write them all down, what you need to do is you need to read them out loud. You need to read them aloud, okay? And then you need to feel it and hear it and feel it. Usually what happens is this little revelation moment happens. You start to identify that voice now is not your own. So who do you associate with saying this to you? And most often, it will be one of your parents. So what this exercise allows us to do is to create separation between the voices that we have in our head, our true voice and the critical voice. And it brings awareness to it so that we can make a decision now, do we want to listen to this voice or not? And then what I want you to do in the third column is to rewrite it in your true voice, the real me, the one that's nurturing, loving, compassionate, and supportive. The I statements back again, okay? This allows you to recognize, to choose, and then to interpret it differently. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. The light's flashing, I get it. Here's example number 1. And this is my own, okay? I'm being vulnerable here with you guys, all right? I'm a really slow reader. You are a really slow reader. You should work harder and be more like your cousin. It's my mom. I love my mom. Everything's good. I'm just letting you know how this works. It's like, what is the true voice? What does it really mean? I need to find something better in there. Well, I read slowly because I absorb more of what I read. It's what makes me a good teacher. Here's another example, okay? I don't deserve the followers I have on Instagram. I don't know why people follow me. You are really inconsistent and don't deserve the followers you have. And then the true voice, the one that's compassionate. Despite not being consistent, people find my content and story inspiring. Okay, we're almost here at the end. So I want to have you guys try this out too. This is the extra part here. Is I want you to try to think about how your critical voice dictates what you do at social functions, at a new business meeting, public speaking, when you have a client that's underwhelmed or angry, when you're budgeting work. Write them down. And then try to write it using the real you. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you weren't judging yourself and if you were supportive?